Batman's earliest and weirdest villains are stranger than you think, as I remember seeing Batman absolutely wreck villains like a homeless guy and the Condiment King, whose condiment-based suit and powers of throwing relish packets at people pack a far bigger punch than my 6-year-old self ever thought. The Condiment King, or Mitchell Mayo, is a guy who was once a famous stand-up comedian who, after judging an annual comedy standoff, accidentally ticked off the Joker, who kidnapped him and made him believe that he needed to punish the world by committing crimes, and that the best way to do this was by using every type of condiment you can think of. Condiment King first started by creating 2 condiment guns for ketchup and mustard that are so freakishly powerful that he can propel people he shoots backwards, sending them flying through the air. This means that Condiment King's squirt guns, in order for them to push, say, a 200-pound man backwards, literally lifting him up and sending him flying around 30 feet through the air in a moment's notice, would be packing somewhere over 16,000 newtons of force, or over 270,000 pounds per square inch, which is close to the force required to propel small rockets that he has no problem blasting you in the face with, which could also easily blind you. But it gets worse, as later the Condiment King invents what is pretty much a rapid-fire minigun, which could allow him to shoot condiment bullets at you at the rate of 3 to upwards of 6,000 mayonnaise bullets a minute. And while he may only break some of your bones, give you severe bruising, and likely send you through a drywall, the Condiment King's greatest threat to humanity is that he can induce what is known as anaphylactic shock in whoever he hits. Essentially, anaphylaxis is an immune response gone wild, where after coming into contact with something like various foods, drugs, or after being drowned in cheap dollar store condiments, your immune system has a severe allergic reaction to the substance, triggering a flood of chemicals across your body that cause severe allergy symptoms, giving you hives, tightening your throat, causing swelling, heart palpitations, and more, and can be very scary and life-threatening. In severe cases, having the Condiment King shoot a glob of ghost pepper sauce, followed by relish into your mouth, could cause you to go into shock, plummeting your blood pressure and weakening your pulse to where you would need to go to the emergency room right now. But luckily for Batman, after Condiment King was created, via Adam West constantly making condiment-based puns like "how I relish this meeting," Batman's suit luckily protects him long enough to one-shot the villain. Then we have the Eraser, a genius of a man with an equally dynamite fashion sense. Lenny Fiasco's tragic story is one of him making mistakes on exams and general work in college, where he would then be ruthlessly mocked, and he was quick to expertly erase any of his mistakes as if they never happened. But then one day, Lenny just snapped, seeing his dream of taking his classmate Cecilia Smith to the school's ice carnival just shatter, after she chose to go with someone with way more money named Bruce Wayne. And this gave Lenny an idea to finally turn to a life of crime, dressing up as one of his favorite beloved number 2 pencils, donning a costume complete with insane gadgets of his own designs, like shoes with extendable pencil blades that he can tap dance out, with his costume being able to release knockout gas, and he invented a giant magic eraser that he wears as his mask that allows him to bend over and literally scrub away anything, erasing everything from fingerprints to the nearly invisible footprints people leave behind, hairs, fibers from clothing, and even human blood. The eraser soon marketed himself in the supposedly secret crime magazine called The Secret Underground, where for a mere 20% cut, he offered to erase all clues from any crime scene. Normally, erasers grab onto the graphite particles in the paper, loosening them as they latch onto them. Lenny's giant eraser head, on the other hand, is likely doing something similar, grabbing onto and soaking up all of the blood and scuff marks from shoes and fingerprints, but the thing is, he leaves the crime scenes absolutely nearly flawless. So flawless that Batman was absolutely stumped as to what was going on. Lenny didn't just invent a giant pencil, he invented something that had never been seen before. Something that is akin to a dry form of an incredibly strong and extremely corrosive acid. Something that if he were to touch you with his head, you would want to immediately run and douse yourself in a waterfall of cold water and whatever else you can get your hands on before the substance that he scrubbed you with burns away your clothes and skin, giving you something akin to the mother of all chemical burns. A chemical burn that unfortunately would work so fast that it's practically instant in breaking down whatever it happens to touch, working faster than bleach, hydrogen peroxide, and even strong alkylating agents that are used to instantly sterilize hospital equipment. But as far as staggering to downright fire inventions go, we have Kitman. Kitman, or Charles Chuck Brown, grew up absolutely loving kites, even more than kids love puppies, and as he grew older, Charles went on to become an engineer who specialized in aerodynamics. But living in Gotham, Charles was soon approached by its many villains to invent various things like their wacky themed cars, and eventually was approached by Batman, who asked Charles to work as a double agent against the Joker, with the Joker asking him to be a double agent against the Riddler, who knew Charles was working for Batman, which put him in a rather hard spot, and soon resulted in the Riddler murdering his son, poisoning the string of one of his favorite kites. Charles, heartbroken, then turned to a life of crime, swearing that he would only ever use kite-based weapons and gadgets to commit his crimes and avenge his son. Kitman is usually seen having a large extendable hang glider-like kite strapped to him that is sometimes jet-powered, allowing him to fly wherever he wants. He tends to strap various weapons like fireworks, flashbulbs, tear gas, nets, and pretty much anything else he can to small kites that he can expertly paper plane to his enemies, as well as he has a massive kite blimp to shuttle people around in. In order for Kitman's kite to work, he would have to have invented something remarkable, something that would have to be made out of incredibly light and strong materials to support his weight, with the metal frame of his kite likely being made out of something like carbon fiber and titanium, with the cloth being made out of his own specialized synthetic nylon, whose weave makes it protected against tearing, along with him having a jet thruster on the back that helps him reach different altitudes, maintain flight, and achieve controlled landings. This would also mean that his kite would have to have some sort of advanced energy source, going so far as futuristic nano batteries to achieve the levels of power needed to keep him whizzing through the air without adding any additional weight. Kitman soon became a formidable enemy, even knocking Batman out with one of his trick kites. But soon after Batman learned what he was dealing with, Kitman's kite is now mounted on the Batcave wall. But perhaps one of the more strangely tragic villains Batman ever faced was a young girl named Baby Doll. But this girl is actually somewhere in her late 20s to 30s. Mary Louise Doll, who otherwise came to be known as Baby Doll from the lead role she played in a famous sitcom, suffers from an incredibly rare condition known as systemic hypoplasia, a condition that keeps her cells, organs, and overall her entire body from developing or growing any further, basically keeping her trapped in the body of a young girl. For some time, she enjoyed success on her own sitcom, but soon left it after being treated poorly in an episode and finally decided to become a dramatic actress. But doors were shut in her face everywhere she went, leading her to become a criminal, just to get her now cancelled show back on the air. But as Batman may have found out, Baby's condition of systemic hypoplasia is actually quite different than a simple, you just look young forever condition. The term systemic means that it affects the whole system, rather than a particular part, while hypoplasia refers to the incomplete development or underdevelopment of an organ or tissue. Hence, organs or tissue affected by hypoplasia have a below average number of cells, which doesn't just affect their growth, in this case of how old Baby looks, but also could affect their overall function. For example, someone could have hypoplasia of the cerebellum, can lead to difficulties developing proper motor movement skills, and optic nerve hypoplasia can lead to vision and eye movement problems. Mostly everything besides her vocal cords were affected, leading Batman to defeat her however in a bit nicer way than the others, which is not exactly what we can say for bizarre titans like King Tut and Maxi Zeus, two criminals that think that they are an ancient Egyptian ruler and Greek god, who, much like some guest celebrity voice actors I met when I walked across the street from my genetics class to an acting school, they unfortunately think that they are literal gods living among men. And the condition that we assign to people like Maxi Zeus and King Tut used to be called paranoid disorder, or now known as delusional disorder, which is a serious mental illness where someone becomes psychotic, making them lose touch with reality, not being able to tell what's real versus what's imagined. The afflicted hold unshakable beliefs that something imagined is true, while at the same time thinking that other very real things couldn't actually be their reality. Normally, delusional or paranoid disorder involves things that aren't extremely bizarre, like the feeling that you're constantly being followed, conspired against, or deceived. What guys like Maxi Zeus and King Tut have, on the other hand, who have gone to great lengths amassing fortunes to pay off countless henchmen and build giant lasers, is a rare condition called bizarre delusion, or specifically grandiose, meaning this person has an overinflated sense of worth, power, knowledge, or identity, like an ancient pharaoh or Zeus himself. Apart from their delusions, this condition doesn't inhibit someone's ability to socialize and function normally, unless they become so preoccupied with them that they, being Zeus, believe that Zeus would rob banks and then catch the attention of Batman as they try to murder their sister. But if none of this was very interesting, then I saved an interesting villain for last. Perhaps Batman's earliest and most iconic villain, with the most specific obsession ever given to someone, is the Penny Plunderer. This guy steals nothing but pennies, and he is darn skilled at it too, with the Penny Plunderer actually being the one responsible for Batman's most iconic memento, being the giant, nearly 10,000 pound penny that Batman keeps in his Batcave, that Batman also managed to stop with his freakish strength. And speaking of Batman's strength, check out my most popular Batman video to see just how strong he really is. See you in the next one.